The world of mixed martial arts is often filled with violent and unexpected fights that happen in and outside the octagon. From minor skirmishes to full-blown brawls. Over the years, we've seen UFC stars duke it out in public a few times, to much fanfare. In today's video, we'll be taking a look at the most violent street fights involving UFC fighters. We're starting the list with the cautionary tale of Lee Murray, who couldn't stay out of trouble. Most people go to clubs to have fun and unwind, but sometimes things get out of hand and a fight breaks out. If you're lucky, it might end up being a little fight, which is settled fairly quickly. But when Murray found himself at the Funky Buddha nightclub, it was a gory scene. On the 28th of September, Murray got into an altercation outside the Funky Buddha nightclub in London. What started as a fist fight quickly turned sinister, and Murray sustained several injuries that left him fighting for his life. Imagine going to a club for a drink with your pals, and leaving with stab wounds, and going to the hospital to get your nipple attached. If you thought that was the end of it, we're happy to say that you're in for a real treat. Murray returned to the same club 1 week later and was caught up in another fight outside. It was a gnarly experience because Murray arrived at the hospital with a punctured lung and a damaged artery. It's a miracle he's still alive. Roger Huerta has a reputation for protecting women, and when an NFL linebacker stepped out of line, Huerta was there to put him in his place. The whole incident started with the NFL linebacker Rashad Bobino hitting a woman outside a bar in Austin, Texas, back in 2010. Roger Huerta couldn't understand how a 6'1" Rashad Bobino could sucker punch a woman, and before long, both men had their shirts off for a fight. Being the better fighter, Huerta left Bobino knocked out on the sidewalk. For his bravery, Roger Huerta earned the respect of several people in the mixed martial arts scene, who thought his actions were commendable. After the video made the rounds on social media, Huerta was modest as ever, claiming he just did what anyone would do. Club bouncers can be frightening, but Mark Hunt wasn't intimidated by two massive bouncers who tried to rough up his friend at a nightclub in Auckland, New Zealand. When Hunt noticed that his friends were attacked outside the club, he did what any good friend would do and joined the fight against the enormous bouncers. Outnumbered and overpowered, Hunt and his friends lost the fight, and the police were called to the scene to defuse the situation. Not being one to give up, Hunt went back for round 2, knocking one of the bouncers out with a single right hook. The bouncers swarmed Hunt again, but he was unfazed, and he went on to knock out 2 more bouncers. During the fight, one of the bouncers quickly ushered Hunt into the club and ordered him to enter the staff toilets to avoid being busted. As it turned out, the bouncer was a martial artist, Sam Marsters, and he was impressed by Mark's brutal knockout power. He offered Mark to train in his gym, which led to Mark's long and storied career as a fighter. All because of one of the craziest street fights you could imagine. John "War Machine" Copenhaver got into an altercation in Los Angeles in 2009 that sounds like something you would watch in a low-budget comedy show. This wild fight happened when War Machine was invited to a birthday party hosted by a porn star named Brookhaven. Copenhaver came to the party with his then-girlfriend Alana Ray, who was also a porn star. Copenhaver noticed that his girlfriend was having a really good time with another guy at the party, and all hell broke loose. Copenhaver slapped his date before proceeding to attack the porn star Alec Knight. He hurt his manager Ben English, knocked 3 teeth out of an unknown person's mouth, and even gave someone else a broken nose. A lot of things go down in Vegas, but you must agree that this was wild by all accounts. The world is a wild place, and we're sure that it was the thought going through the minds of those who witnessed the fight between Alistair and Valentijn Overeem versus 5 bouncers back in 2009. Alistair decided to relieve himself in the restroom of a Dutch club when he quickly realized he didn't have enough on him to pay the toilet attendant. If this happened anywhere else in the world, it might not be cause for alarm. But apparently, things work differently in the Netherlands. Before long, bouncers showed up and asked the brothers to leave. But things took a turn for the worse when Valentijn was struck with a flashlight in the face. Alistair jumped back in, and by the end of the night, the 5 bouncers had to be hospitalized. It almost seems like UFC fighters and club bouncers don't mix well. When Uriah Faber went on vacation to Bali in 2006, he found himself in a precarious situation that led to a fight for his life. The American UFC star came to loggerheads with locals at a club after he asked a woman for a dance. The men were obviously jealous that the lady agreed to dance with Faber, which led to a fight that Faber won fair and square, breaking his opponent's collarbone. A few minutes after the skirmish, other disgruntled locals, armed with dangerous weapons, attacked Faber from all sides. The Californian kid was repeatedly kicked and struck with a shoe hammer, but he was able to get out of the club, elbowing one of his attackers in the face. Blood-soaked, the superstar jumped into a nearby taxi, where he had to fend off the gang again before he was driven to the hospital. Unlike other entries in this video, this time we have a fight between UFC stars that never made it to the octagon. It happened after UFC 38 in London, England, in July 2002. And it involved Lee Murray, Tito Ortiz, Chuck Liddell, and Pat Miletich all fighting each other. It all started when a friend of Tito's jumped on Pat Miletich's back, pretending to choke him outside a club at 4 a.m. It might have been a joke to the man, but Pat's friends weren't taking any chances and quickly swung into action. It quickly turned into a dangerous back alley brawl, as Pat Miletich knocked out everybody that came after Chuck Liddell. Tito Ortiz and Lee Murray started to fight each other, and unfortunately for Ortiz, he got knocked out cold. It might have been a street fight, but most UFC fans would have paid top dollar for a chance to watch it live. When Nick Diaz and Joe Riggs met at the Octagon at UFC 57 back in 2007, they put on a solid show for everyone present, with Riggs walking away with the win at the end of the fight. Unlike your regular UFC fight, Diaz took his loss a bit too personal and decided to ambush Riggs for a rematch. Both fighters were transported to the hospital after the brutal fight, and as they received treatment for their injuries, they struck up a conversation that led to another round of punches. At one point, Joe Riggs had the IV ripped out of his arm, and both men tried to inflict more injuries on the opponent in front of them. After going a few rounds with each other, a police officer finally stepped in and separated the two men. It was one of the infamous skirmishes mixed martial arts fans will not forget anytime soon. MMA is a violent sport, and the news of street fights breaking out here and there shouldn't surprise anyone. What did you guys think of the fights in this video? Did we miss any fights that deserve to be here? Let us know in the comments below.